Hi everyone. Since this will be my last episode, I want to share with you valuable lessons I learned from my brother Bob. His real name was Rommel, but we fondly called him Bob because when we were in grade school, he was a fat kid. He was so fat, he had fat folds, looking like a Michelin mascot. In Bacolod, where we grew up, if you are fat, people call you Baboy, meaning pig. So we called Rommel Baboy or Bob for short. And the moniker somehow stuck all these years. I have four brothers. We are five in all. I'm the fourth of the brood, and Bob was the second from the eldest. He was 2 years older than me. Bob and I attended the same grade school with my other brothers, but Bob and I attended the same high school. So you would probably think I know him that well. But frankly, I cannot really say what was really going on in his mind. He was he was mysterious and very elusive to decipher. But nonetheless, he influenced me in so many areas in my life. So in this episode, I will give you 5 important lessons I learned from my brother Bob. The first one is explore through reading. I wouldn't have discovered my love for reading books if not because of him. Bob was a voracious reader. He was a thinker. He started reading pocket books when he was in high school. Probably a bit late to some, but when he was entering college, he really ramped it up. It was the time when my brother would lock himself up in his room, and all he did was read, read, and read. He eat, then eat, piss, and poop. Do pull ups, then read some more. That's really no exaggeration. So he read history, philosophy, biography, self help, and nonfiction. He had a huge collection of books. If you stack up the books that he read versus mine, it would be comparing a townhouse versus from a skyscraper. He was the one who got me started with reading. I remember I just graduated from high school and I asked him how I can start the habit of reading. So he asked me what is the topic that really interests you? And I told him basketball because I love playing basketball. So we went to National Bookstore and he bought me the biography of Magic Johnson and Larry Bird, two basketball legends. I read I read both pocketbooks right away, and amazingly, I finished both of them. So that was the first time I finished a book. That started my love for reading, and what a world of difference it has made for me. The second one is create your life. Bob was not fond of structures. He believed that one should create the life he wants to live. He has a huge farm in Cavite, and the reason why he went into farming was because he wanted to live off the grid. To some degree, I agree with him because, think about it. It's a nightmare to be living a life that you don't want, isn't it? And you only have one life. Sometimes we have to wake up and snap out from the systems or structures made by the society influenced by corporate marketing. He wanted to grow his own food, produce his own electrical power and water. If you are entirely self sufficient, then you are completely free. Our cost of living here is high because we import even the basics like rice. Many of us are drawn to the life in the city. After working so many years, you are completely dependent to the system, your food, utilities, etc. And you cannot stop working because you need to survive. So you are caught in that web of dependency that diminishes your choices. The third the third one is take responsibility. My brother used to work in a newspaper as a journalist. He was a very good writer and rose to be an editor. He was At that time he was broke. He was financially broke. But things changed when his eldest son Kyle was born. Suddenly he had a human being to feed. So he was responsible for that child. Then he started doing business and his wealth started to rise. He believed that men should take responsibility when they ask a lady for marriage. 'Di ba? Kumbaga, ikaw kasi nagyaya eh. So you need to take care at least the basics. Basics include food and shelter. So if the woman wants jewelry, medyo luho na yon, right? So it is outside your responsibility. But if you can, right, why not? But at least you need to take care of the basics. So how much more if you bring a child into this world? So you have to feed him, you need to clothe him, and you need to put him in a vantage point to explore and be the best version of himself. So he really hated people who don't take responsibility to feed and take care of their family because for him it is a crime. And it is. Okay. The fourth one is commit to your dreams. Bob is my picture of grit. I have never seen a person so determined whenever he wants something. So if we want to get him going, we just insult him. Yeah, we insult him. We brothers insult him. So remember he was a fat boy when we were young and we called him Baboy. Well, that summer he had makeshift steel bar made at the top of the door of his room and did pull-ups all day. So when the school began, he had the best back muscles you could imagine, and everybody in school were surprised. Another great story about his grit was his road to becoming a public speaker. When he was young in high school, he cannot speak in front of the class. Really, he would vomit before speaking, and he would tremble. He was scared of girls also. During that time when we were in grade school, La Salle Bacolod at the time was an all-boys school, and we didn't have much encounter with girls except with our cousins. I remember it was New Year's Eve. There was this scene I can still remember vividly. It was New Year's Eve, and my brothers and I happened to be outside of our house watching fireworks. Then usually at that time, and during New Year's Eve, we we wear costumes. So during that time, I think it was army army theme or soldier theme. Okay. We were standing outside of our house watching fireworks. Then, by sheer luck, our pretty neighbors we had across our house were sisters. So, our pretty neighbors who were about our age were strolling, and they stopped by our house and greeted us. Happy New Year. So Bob, who was wearing a beret, marine beret at that time, approached one of the sisters whom he had a crush on. Um, with his bedroom voice, Bob said, "Her name is Rochelle." So Bob said, "Shell." Uh, then he turned around and vomited. That would be the last time our pretty neighbors dropped by our house. So those characteristic events, made an imprint to Bob that we got when we got here in Manila. The first thing he did was to ask our mom to enroll him in Speech Power, a training center for public speaking. There, he befriended the owner, Dr. Joe Mordino, and conversed with him every opportunity. And during that time, Bob would go out and make friends with foreigners so he could practice his English. So when he was in his 40s, he even ran for mayor and spoke in rallies and several sorties. He spoke with confidence and conviction. So it's a far cry from the vomiting kid who was so scared with girls to finally to a person who can speak on public rallies. Another great story about his grit was his musical journey. You know, I attest, I swear that my brother did not started singing before the age of 50 and 6 months. He specifically said that, 50 years and 6 months. Well, probably he sang during while in the shower, or during when we had karaoke nights, but never in a stage or in a studio, promise. So it all started when, while vacationing in Europe with his two children, his daughter, Kirsten, heard him sing while they were having coffee. So Kirsten said, You have a wonderful voice, Dad. Why don't you sing more often?" That clicked on Bob. Those words clicked on Bob, and he was really inspired by those words. So immediately when they returned in Manila, Bob took voice lessons soon, took voice lessons. After that, every time we had a small gathering, Bob would volunteer to sing for us. Every day he sang, he told us. So he would do the exercises his voice coach told him until he would fall asleep. His arm would his arm would usually ache for holding the microphone for a long time, that he was able to devise to tie the microphone around his neck. So he freed his arms while singing. So to mind you, in just 2 years, since that fateful day in a coffee shop in Europe, Bob was able to record several songs with renowned music producer Benny Saturno and Homer Flores. The last one is Be Generous. Bob is the kindest person I know. His kindness is legendary. I remember vividly during my younger years, there was an intense competition among my brothers. So when it comes to food, so every time lunch is served at home, my brothers would rush to the dining table and eat as fast as we can. So my mom would serve usually two chickens, and we would rush. We would rush to take the who gets the drumstick, who gets the breast, the wings, and all that. And we would rush eating. We would eat so fast so that we can get more piece of chicken or whatever food that's laid upon us. All of us except my brother Bob. Now he would just while we were in the dining table, he would just sit peacefully on the couch with both hands at the back of his head, and not a tiny urge of rushing to satisfy his hungry palate. After we ransacked lunch, he would slowly join us and eat whatever was left. No qualms. He was just happy we were full. So, innately, I believe, and I saw it, Bob was genuinely kind and generous. Another case also was, you know, this was during the time when I was financially stupid. So my brother, I had a huge credit card debt. So when I told Bob about my financial woes, and when I told him that I owed the credit card company this much, do you know what he said? Okay, no problem. He just he sent me the money just like that. So problem solved, just like that. Problem solved. So what I did, I spent some more. Another case was when I lost my wife's brand new mobile phone in Baguio in a public market. Um, so so my wife was angry at me. Was disappointed. So we came down to Manila, and he was depressed. My wife was depressed. The very next day, my brother Rommel called me up to pick up the phone he just bought, and it was the same as the one I lost. Really. So those are the five important lessons I learned from my brother Rommel or Bob. I miss my brother every day. I have been doing these videos to honor him and to basically to cope with my grief. Though this is my last video for this series, Bob continues to be alive in me as I carry and live the lessons I learned from him. I may you have learned from this series, and I hope you continue to subscribe in my succeeding series. Thank you for watching.